We treat public education as a free resource, but a system educating millions of people requires massive physical infrastructure and human capital to function. Every classroom requires heating, scientific equipment, and most importantly, salaries for the teachers who deliver the knowledge. Someone is always paying the final bill. Globally, the most common way to cover this bill is the public taxpayer model. The state pools money from the general population to fund the schools. The mechanical flaw here is that costs are distributed blindly. A taxpayer with no children pays into the exact same pool as a family with 10, completely disconnected from their actual utilization of the system. Furthermore, this public pool rarely covers the total cost. Parents are routinely forced to pay out of pocket for textbooks, supplies, and private tutoring. These hidden expenses act as an invisible filter. Wealthier families can absorb the extra costs, securing better academic outcomes, while lower-income students are penalized from the start. The public model fails its primary objective. Rather than leveling the playing field, it obscures the true cost of education and quietly subsidizes structural inequality. The alternative is the American privatization model. Here, the financial burden is removed from the general public and placed squarely on the shoulders of the individual student. The sheer scale of this obligation is staggering. A single year of study at a top-tier university can easily exceed $40,000. Because students lack that kind of capital up front, they are forced to take on commercial loans, which immediately begin accumulating compounding interest. This transforms the societal need for education into a risk-free profit engine for commercial banks. Graduates spend the next several decades, often half their working lives, routing a significant portion of their income back to lenders, draining capital that would otherwise drive overall economic growth. If the public system structurally reinforces inequality and the private system operates as a predatory debt trap, society requires a radically different architecture to fund human development. The solution lies in separating the exact moment the education is received from the moment it is paid for. The state removes itself as the direct purchaser. Instead, it steps in as a guarantor. Standard commercial credit is used to fund the education, but the state absorbs all the financial risk of that loan. For the student, this means they pay absolutely zero upfront costs to enter the classroom. This protection is comprehensive. Textbooks, laboratory supplies, and specialized instruments are all tracked and rolled directly into a single, personalized digital ledger. Throughout the entire education phase, this financial obligation remains completely dormant. The ledger only activates when the student graduates and transitions into the active workforce. Once they start earning an income, the ledger is paid down seamlessly through a mandatory integrated tax deduction. Because the state holds the initial risk, the system features a built-in safety net. If the individual passes away before the ledger is cleared, the debt is erased. It is never inherited. Education is no longer an insurmountable upfront barrier. It becomes a usage-based, delayed tax, securing equal access without bankrupting the nation. But a nationally funded education model faces a massive vulnerability in a globalized economy: the exit of its highly trained graduates. Look at Serbia. The country hemorrhages roughly €1 billion every single year by educating students who immediately pack up and leave. This creates a severe economic paradox. Domestic taxpayers act as a charity, funding the workforce and subsidizing the economies of wealthier foreign nations. The new architecture is engineered with a strict mechanical solution to this loophole, an emigration penalty tied directly to the state guarantee. The trigger is simple. It activates the exact moment a graduate leaves the domestic tax system to work abroad. Instantly, the state revokes its protective guarantee. The remaining balance on their educational ledger converts into a standard individual commercial debt, directly owed to the bank. This mechanic plugs the billion-euro drain. If you take the nation's educational investment across the border, you become individually responsible for paying it back. What we have is a complete macroeconomic pipeline, flawlessly tracking a generation from their first day of school to their entry into the workforce. By positioning the state strictly as a guarantor, it strips away the illusion that public education is entirely free. Simultaneously, it removes the immediate financial barrier of commercial tuition that locks lower-income students out of higher education. Graduates who stay contribute to a seamless, integrated domestic tax pipeline, while those who emigrate face a strict conversion to private commercial debt. This dual pathway forces exact economic accountability onto every participant. You only pay for the education you actually use, precisely when you have the capacity to pay for it. The domestic economy retains its highly skilled talent, and the educational funds organically regenerate themselves cycle after cycle. True educational equality is not achieved by hiding the costs from the public. It is engineered by building a system where opportunity is freely given at the start line and precisely accounted for at the finish.